Welcome to the future, where the glass is half full and you'll need new glasses, where you'll be jumping from conclusions.
The past is annulled, and a new future is born.
Never before in history has so much meant so little to so many. AD on the radio.
So, Travis, you know who followed me on Twitter?
Who?
Oh, it's good. Yeah. Oh, you don't do Twitter. You don't do Twitter.
No, I don't tweet. I was going to say, I know it's not me because I don't tweet. So, but it sounds like it's somebody juicy. So now I seriously want to know.
I'm very, very excited about this. And I had a few moments where I was really stoked, where there's a couple of guys that play for the New York Mets that follow me, and the New York Mets themselves follow me. And that was a big deal. And then there were some unusual ones not Lindsay Lohan. What's the porn star? Jenna Jameson follows me on Twitter.
What?
Yeah, I don't understand it. It's
so
a
who's
weird
the
one.
new one?
We've chit-chatted back and forth, me and Jenna. Actually,
crazy.
you know what's interesting about Jenna Jameson? You know how she was the biggest porn star of the 90s and early 2000s? Yeah. I don't think she does adult entertainment anymore, but what she is she married a Jewish guy, and she's extremely Jewish, and she's extremely right wing, unbelievably so. Yeah. All she seems to do is argue with lefties on Twitter. That's how Jenna Jameson seems to spend most of her day. And she had a baby, and that didn't slow her down from trolling lefties on Twitter. She's like, I'm just cooking Shabbat dinner and discussing why you fundamentalist ISIS pig dogs need to die.
I'm not gonna lie. If somebody offered me that job of trolling people on Twitter, I would take it. You know what? That would get me to tweet. If somebody was like, "Hey, we'll pay you to troll people on Twitter," I'll open a Twitter right now.
Well, I would like to be there's some people that are unbelievably clever, and they get paid to tweet for companies like Whataburger. The folks that tweet for Whataburger, whoever handles their social media is great. Whoever handles the Met social media is really, really clever. Whoever handles Moon Pie's social media is awesome. Being clever on Twitter, if you can do it, it's a job. But then the other part of it, it's great being funny and clever on Twitter. If that could be your full-time occupation, that would be fantastic. But the other part of Twitter is it's basically a massive customer service gig. People will always be complaining at you because, as much as you're clever and funny as the Moon Pie social media account, someone will be like, I found a piece of glass in my Moon Pie, I'm going to sue.
Yeah. And you got to deal with that.
Yeah. So on the one hand, it sounds like fun. On the other hand, it's really just working a customer service job where literally anyone can light you up in front of the entire world. So it's not necessarily everything is cracked up to be, but, yeah. Anyway,
is it Moon Pie? Is it Moon Pie that's following you on Twitter? Moon
Pie hasn't. Oh, Torchy's Tacos followed me on Twitter. That was pretty cool.
Oh my god!
I don't know if I'm going to be able to parlay it into free tacos, but I hold out hope.
But...
Oh man. Oh, Torchy's is so. Hold on, I'm just thinking about Torchy's for a second.
God.
Oh, so good. Have you ever had their street corn?
No. I actually haven't ever had Torchy's tacos.
What?
I know. It's sacrilege. I love tacos, and I've had so many people tell me, they're like, "Oh, you know what I love at Torchy's? You know what we should get?" And I'm like, you know what? I've never been to Torchy's, and there's one right by my house. So there's no excuse. I know.
This is like you not seeing. This is like you not seeing Star Wars, but you're really depriving yourself.
I know. Get the Torchy's.
Get the fish taco. I think it's the Mr. Pink. Is the salmon? Oh, really? You don't eat fish tacos?
I live on a boat. I work on a boat. I lived in the Caribbean. I don't eat seafood. I just don't like it. I don't know what it is. I know, but I will get a Torchy's taco. There's
plenty of other delicious tacos to be eaten at Torchy's, but we're getting off track. We should be talking about who followed me on Twitter.
Who followed you on Twitter?
The Mooch. Anthony Scaramucci, 11-day Communications Director for President of these United States of America, Donald J. Trump. Anthony Scaramucci, the Mooch, followed me on Twitter. I'm very excited about this.
Why would he follow you?
I don't know.
Twitter?
I don't understand. I don't know. I'm not entirely sure. Who knows? But I know that I slid into his DMs almost immediately because he followed me. So why not? Why can't I send him a private message?
You and I've decided. Messaged him?
Oh, are you? Yes, of course. Of course, I messaged him. Yeah. Absolutely.
What do you say to him? What do you say to Anthony Scaramucci?
Well, I've decided that, if I really play, because weird people have followed me on Twitter over the last several months. Like, who followed me on Twitter and I was just as bemused by all of this as you are. But Rose McGowan followed me on Twitter. And we tweeted back and forth, I think about a year ago, because
why?
Whenever, when someone like that follows me on Twitter, I'll send them. And when I say someone like that, I mean someone with a verified account who's a bit of a celebrity, whether they're an internet celebrity or a real celebrity.
Yeah,
I will message them directly. Not because I'm trying to be hey, what's going on, buddy? But because I'm this is garbage. This is obviously some sort of bot. This is some sort of program. They don't know who I am. They don't care. This is crap. And so I'll message them, and lo and behold, Rose McGowan messaged me right back. And I thought for about a week or so that I wasn't talking to her, but I was. So
and you think it's really her?
Yeah. We talk. It's very strange. Yeah.
Oh my God, this is just weird.
We have not talked as much since the whole Harvey Weinstein thing kicked off. But when it did kick off, I was hey, that thing that you just did, I think this is gonna wind up being something that is really going to change things. And we had no idea how much this was going to affect every aspect of our life in America for months and perhaps all eternity. But she really was the tipping point. She was the one that started the whole thing with Harvey Weinstein, which led to the current climate. And it's an interesting one, to be sure, because I was hey, what you did, what you stood up for, that was cool. Good job. Way to go. And she messaged me back and she was yep. I've been playing the long game now, phase 2 or something like that. So yeah, there you go. But I got to tell you what I tweeted to the mooch.
Real radio. 104.1.
Where the left and right come together for fundamental truths. AD on the radio, on Twitter at ADSXE.
So yeah, I'm very, very excited. The mooch, Anthony Scaramucci, 11-day communications director for President of these United States of America, Donald J. Trump, followed me on Twitter. Why? I'm not entirely sure, but I have slid into his DMs and I'm eagerly awaiting his reply.
It's just weird. I just don't know. I mean, I don't know why he followed you, but I just can't imagine what you say to Anthony Scaramucci. What do you say when you send him a message? Hey,
okay, so whenever someone who's even vaguely famous follows me, I'm this is a joke. This is a bot. They don't know who I am. They're not following me on purpose. They've just got, I don't know. And so I'll message people when they do that just to see if I get some canned response or no response. And sometimes people answer me back and we wind up chit-chatting for a little bit. There's actually, there's one porn star that followed me recently from Houston, and I was oh, that's kind of cool. She I didn't realize that Houston had indigenous porn stars. I thought they all lived in California. So
hang on, what's her name?
Ava Adams, friend of yours?
No, I don't know. I don't know who she is. I was just wondering. I'm not trying to call you out or anything on your Twitter. I was just...
No. I mean...
Do you have a lot of famous people on there?
That follow me?
Yeah.
I don't... Let's see. I mean, Anthony Scaramucci. And by the way, I've decided, I'm going to message Anthony Scaramucci until he returns my DMs, just because, well, I mean... You kind of got to, but I've decided I'm only going to say truthful things to him. This is what I said. I said, thank you so much for the follow. I think you're one of the most truly fascinating political figures of modern history, and I can't wait to see what you do next. See, that's honest, right? That's good.
That is. No, it's one of those things that you could love him or you could hate him, and you haven't said anything dishonest, because that's my take on politics, and it's kind of selfish, but I'm just here for the show. I loved him because I don't have a horse in the game here. I don't care what happens. I'm just here to see the most exciting stuff happen. So, I want him back. I hope he writes you back. I hope he gets back in the White House. I think it's great.
He followed me last night, and my last direct message to him was, "You up?"
Oh my God.
I might have blown it early there, but I'm just going to keep sending him messages. We'll see how it goes.
Hilarious.
The
oh
mooch.
My God.
Scaramucci. My favorite Scaramucci line was the one where he said, "I don't really like politics. In politics, people tend to stab you in the back. When you get stabbed by Scaramucci stabs you in the front. I'm more of a front stabber." Like, that was his whole thing. Like, when I stab you, you see it coming. I'm an honest, stabby person, or something of that nature. Was it you that was telling me that he might be coming back?
Yeah, it was me. It's kind of one of those sketchy, probably fake news stories that I hate to even like try and spread the lies, but like, it's all over the news saying that he is telling people that Trump and other people in the White House want him back. Now, they reached out to him and asked him, for a comment, and he said, "That's not true. I never said that. Nobody's talking about that." So I don't know if it's true or not. I hope it's true, but
well, I guess he's on his way to becoming a bit of a media, like a bit of a media figure. At least that's what he's trying to do. Because when you go to his Twitter, as one does when the mooch follows you, mooch. That's going to be my next direct message to him. It's just going to be M multiple O's CH, mooch. He will respond to me, but my boy the mooch's Twitter feed, it's like him and Stephen Colbert is the main picture, like the banner picture above. And then I didn't know he did this. The link to his website is Scaramucci Post, scaramuccipost.com. I guess it's like his version of the Huffington Post. What's on the Scaramucci Post?
It's one of those questions. Do you really want to know? Like, is it going to make you a better person to read this, or is it going to make you wish that you hadn't gone there?
Oh, it's basically his blog.
Okay. So it could be entertaining. It could be real entertaining.
Interesting. I might have to dive into this. What does it say about Scaramucci Post? Oh my God.
It is good. It is good. Is that right?
So if you go to the About section of the Scaramucci Post, me and my buddy, the mooch, it's a note from the editor. In the About section, it says, "The doorstep to the Temple of Wisdom is a knowledge of our own ignorance." That's deep stuff from the mooch.
Oh my God. He doesn't like
doesn't
politics,
say,
just so you know.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the way you put it, Travis, that I'm just here for the show, I think it's a very healthy attitude. And we talk about this all the time, and I don't think I've ever put it so succinctly. And that's going to be my battle cry from here on in. We talk politics on this show, but really we're talking about human beings, and we're talking about moving the ball of humanity further down the field. We're talking about coming together. We're talking about learning from each other's differences. We're talking about recognizing that we might believe different things, but if you ask us what we want, there's a very good chance it's the same. We all want a roof over our heads. We all want to have a job that we find meaningful. If we have a child, we want that child to have a real shot at an education and a life in this world. We all want these things. We just have different ideas about the best way to get there. And if we can chat amongst ourselves in a civil manner about the things that we disagree on, we might actually gasp, shock, amazement, learn from one another, and get there quicker. So I think that's a great way of describing it. We're here for the show, and we recognize that our own lives are in our own hands, and it's good to pay attention to politics, but if you take it as much more than amusement, the way Travis Golightly does, well, yeah, you're probably thinking about it a little too much. Anthony Scaramucci is, I think, a guy who's good for the mix. And if he entered the world of politics a little bit more, I wouldn't be mad. Just because in his role of communications director, I don't think he was in a position to really screw up anything. He didn't have his finger on the button. He couldn't fry us, but he was amusing, and he made us smile in a time where we needed to smile. So maybe that's why they want him back. Maybe they need a clown in the White House again.
For more stimulation and less irritation, 9 out of 10 doctors choose KPRC AM 950. Houston's more stimulating talk radio.
Don't get the blues, get all the news. We mean all of you guys out there in Radioland. All aboard!
He's back. AD on the radio.
Give it up, yeah. Give it up, yeah. Bring this on, come on, come on.
So have you ever complained about a coworker, Travis? You ever done that?
I don't think I've actually filed a formal complaint. No.
You ever complained to your boss about them?
I try to stay out of it. I try not to talk about people because I don't remember. My memory's so bad that if somebody's like, "Oh, did you say this about somebody?" I'm not going to remember, and I don't want to lie to somebody about it. So I just trying to mind my own business and not complain about people. I'm the guy that if you start complaining about somebody to me, I'll probably be like, "Oh, that's crazy. I never heard anybody talk about him before," because I don't want anything to do with it.
That's a very good response. I have one, which is mine. I should probably use yours because yours sounds better. Mine sounds a little judgy. When people come to me and complain about folks, I either I agree with them. I'm like, yeah, F that person. What can we do to get rid of them? No, I never do that. No, but I usually just say, I've never been comfortable talking about a person who isn't in the room. I don't like.
Yeah. That's good, and that's responsible. That's the responsible answer. Mine's the immature kid who doesn't want anything to do with an answer.
Yeah, but mine sounds a little judgmental and condescending. I'm sorry, I'm not vulgar enough to engage in idle office gossip. But be on your way, peasant. Yours is a little better because it gets the message across without sort of a lilting sense of superiority, which mine kind of does. Yeah, you're probably better with people than I am. But the reason I bring this up, the reason I ask if you've ever complained about a coworker is because a woman said she was fired for complaining about a coworker this past week just gone by.
Does it say what did she complain about?
Yes, she complained that her coworker stank. She complained about her coworker's body odor, and now she is in the unemployment line. And we'll get into the whys and wherefores of this a little later on. We'll do that later, and we'll probably get into some news next, shall we?
Hang on. Anthony Scaramucci write you back on Twitter yet?
Oh. Yeah, in case you're just joining us. Well, no, he did not. Sadly, he did not. But in case you're just joining us, the big news in my little world of Twitter, 2018 from a social media perspective is off to a very interesting start because I've been followed by former White House communications director for a grand total of 11 days, Anthony the Mooch Scaramucci. And I'm determined to engage in some conversation and dialogue with the Mooch, only because, well, I think it'll be fascinating. I think I might have blown it though, because my last message to him, first I said, thank you so much for the follow. I think you're one of the most truly fascinating political figures of modern history, and I can't wait to see what you do next. All of the above is true. And then when he didn't get back to me, I said, you up? I think I might have blown it with a you up.
I can't believe you message him. Do you have a lot of famous people that you message on Twitter?
I mean, like I said, if someone verified follows me, I'll message them just out of curiosity because I think it's a bot or something spammy, and there's not a real person there. And you know what? A lot of the time there isn't, but occasionally there is. And so, yeah, I always do. I have a lot of adult entertainers seem to follow me. I'm not entirely sure why. I'm going down my list of verified followers. This is probably the most self-indulgent bit that any radio person has ever done. Let's talk about who follows me on Twitter.
Wait, it's not like you brought it up to discuss it. I've kind of put you on the line and asking, and I shouldn't have. But
Ted Lieu. Do you know who Ted Lieu is?
Ted Lieu is congressman?
Yeah, he's a Democratic congressman. He is a U.S. Air Force veteran, but he is also an epic troll of our president, Donald Trump.
Yes. Yeah, he hates him, yes.
Yeah, he's that Asian congressman. He says he's husband of Betty, the love of my life, father of 2 great kids, U.S. Air Force veteran, member of Congress, in that order. Also, I don't take orders from Vladimir Putin.
Oh, my God.
Oh
my God.
I mean, in a less girly way. Oh, the red hot. Oh. I got all excited. What? The high girlish squeak that I just emitted was out of excitement upon finding out that the Red Hot Chili Peppers have decided to follow me.
Really?
Not really. I misread. It is a verified account, but they're the Red Hot Chili Pipers. They're the bagpipe cover band of the Chili Peppers.
Oh my God.
I got so excited.
I bet if you message them, they write you back.
You know what? I bet they
really
do.
Long conversations.
I bet they do, and I bet they do it quickly.
I bet so. Oh my God.
So wait, you're not on Twitter. You don't do the Twitter thing. You've decided that's not for you, but you're on Instagram, right?
Yeah, I do Instagram. Twitter, I don't do it. And even with Instagram, I really hate social media. Like, if you looked at my Instagram, so the thing that annoys me about Instagram is most of the things or people that I follow on Instagram are I follow a few raccoons. That sounds so stupid.
No, I follow a lot of dogs. Why not?
Yeah, I follow a few raccoons and I've got a few squirrels on there and I'm not a lonely guy or anything. I know this sounds really pitiful, but it's just one of those things I like to open up my Instagram and I don't like to see drama. I want to see things that make me happy, and I'm I follow tons of dogs for this reason. I like puppies in my newsfeed. The thing that annoys me is I'll start following a new raccoon, okay? And then all of a sudden I get this. Shut up! Stop laughing. So
I'll start following a new raccoon.
Shut up. Anyways, I'll start following a new raccoon, and then I'll get this notification that this capybara is following me now, and it's and I know for a fact that this capybara has no interest in what I'm posting on Instagram. He just wants me to follow him back. So it's I don't like the games, okay? And
you don't like the self-serving capybara Instagram games?
If I follow a monkey, I don't need a rabbit being oh, I'm going to follow you because I like your post. I know that this rabbit has no
that's
interest
the funniest
in what
thing
I'm
I've ever heard. That capybara has no interest in what I post on Instagram.
So I don't like the games. I like Instagram. I like to see these raccoons and the squirrels and even the capybaras, but I don't need for them to try and stroke my ego to get me to follow them as well. And I think that's probably a lot of what Twitter is as well.
Yeah, I think Twitter is similar, although I've yet to be followed by a capybara on Twitter.
Well, it'll give you something to look forward to, okay? I'm sorry. Okay,
apparently, if we are to believe the social media consultants of this world, Instagram is something that you do with people that you don't know and you don't expect to be communicated back to. You follow famous people, celebrities, people you admire, capybaras and raccoons on Instagram. Well, you follow the raccoons, the capybaras follow you, but you think that's under false pretenses.
I just want a little honesty in my Instagram, okay? That's all I ask for.
I think capybaras are intrinsically deceitful animals, as adorable as they may look. They'll rip your heart right out and won't think twice about it. No, but here's the thing with Instagram. Apparently, it's sort of a voyeuristic thing. You're following people and you don't necessarily expect them to follow you back, and you don't necessarily expect to communicate with them. With Twitter, it's an open line of communication. It's not about pictures. It's not about observing their life through pictures. It's about seeing what they're communicating and possibly communicating back to them and knowing that they're probably going to see it when you tweet back to them. So it's a two-way street, whereas Instagram is really, just like I said, more of a voyeuristic thing.
I'm just saying, I don't like it messing with my emotions. Is all I'm trying to say. I'll follow who I want. I don't want to be tried. I don't want these capybaras trying to talk me into following him just because I'm following a raccoon.
We'll talk about the woman who was fired for complaining about a coworker's body odor. Because, between the capybaras and the BO, we tackle big and important subjects around here. We'll talk about that later. Right now, though, Travis Golightly, let's do a little bit of news.
So Hoda Kotb
is that how you pronounce her name? I've always seen it, and I just see it, Kathy Lee and Hoda, and I know who they are, and I know who she is. I don't watch them on TV, but I know who they are. But I always see her last name, and I've got no idea how to pronounce it. Is that how you do it? Hoda
I'm pretty sure it's Kotb is how it's pronounced. pronounced. I feel pretty sure of it. I could be wrong. And you know what? If you get a ton of emails saying that I don't know how to pronounce her name, then I want to apologize. But I'm pretty sure it's Hoda Kotb. She's going to be replacing Matt Lauer as the co-anchor on the Today Show.
Oh, no kidding. Wow. Hoda was all like, somebody pinch me. And then coworkers reminded her that Matt Lauer is gone.
Matt Lauer texted congratulations to Hoda Kotb for getting his old job at the Today Show.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then he ruined that moment next by texting her a photo of his junk.
Oh my God.
It's funny. Do you remember for a little while? Oh my gosh, this shows how little I care or notice daytime TV. Who was his old co-host? She was kind of like cutesy and adorable.
Savannah Guthrie? I don't know.
No. Katie Kirk? Was Katie
Yes.
Kirk? Yeah. So do you remember when Katie Kirk went back to working with Matt Lauer for a little bit? Like she went off and did her own show, and then she filled in for somebody for a little while. She was like Matt Lauer's co-host again for a little bit, and she said like...
I'm not sure I knew about it.
It was funny. I was reading an old headline about it because I just Googled Matt Lauer when the stories were breaking, and one of them was like, Katie Couric said working with Matt Lauer is like riding a bicycle. Like you just never forget how to do it. I was like, yeah. A smug balding bicycle that tried to show you his junk.
Oh my God, that's awkward.
Go on.
Paris Hilton got engaged over the weekend.
Oh, wow. That's huge news, replied the year 2002. That's, Have you ever seen, like, I know a lot of people that work really, really hard to be club DJs or musicians of any kind, and Paris Hilton is one of the most highly paid club DJs on the face of the planet, and she just kind of stands there waving her arms around while some guy behind her does all the work. And like I've seen so many people that are personally offended by Paris Hilton for that reason. They're just like, go back to doing it in night vision. Like that is what the world is looking for from you. But apparently she's
trying to insinuate Paris Hilton may not actually deserve everything she has.
Well, here's the thing. Like, I've got some very irate DJ guys. And by the way, like, I mean, DJing is a skill. Being on the ones and twos and being able to rock a party is a skill. But it's also sort of like this recycled thing where you're taking someone else's record and, sort of taking credit for it. Like, oh, man, I turned this party out. No, you didn't. I believe the Notorious B.I.G. turned this party out. You decided to press play on his record, but well done. That was a good choice. I enjoyed your choice that night. But let's not get it twisted here. You are not the person who came up with a rhyme nor program the beat. Settle down, get a grip. But there are a lot of sort of bitter, jealous DJ types that go, Paris Hilton doesn't know what she's doing. But Paris Hilton has been one of the biggest club DJs for, I think, over a decade now. And I was thinking about this the other day. Last time a gripey DJ buddy of mine was like, oh, she's talentless and awful. I was like, she's been doing this 10 years. It's conceivable that in the past decade, she's learned how to do it. Like, she might not have started out knowing how to do it, but I'm willing to give her the benefit of the doubt. Like, she might be good at it. Who knows? But she's
I wouldn't
engaged.
give her the benefit of the doubt.
Okay.
Just to be clear, but that's nice of you.
That is. Oh, well, I'm a great guy. Go on.
Guy Fieri's Times Square restaurant has shut down.
Oh, no. Now where am I supposed to eat? Replied D-bags everywhere. Apparently it was really... Apparently the food was legendarily bad. Like, I mean, it's a tourist trap, as all Times Square restaurants are. And by the way, as a native New Yorker, like... Here's what we don't tell people that come to New York. When you live in New York, you send everybody to Times Square and the Village. People like to walk around in the Village and feel like they're getting immersed in sort of like New York history, and then they love to go look at the neon stuff. And this is what people in Times Square do. And it used to be infuriating for me because I used to have an office in Times Square where I sort of like worked out of. And when you walk out of that office, all it is people from other parts of the country walking slow and looking up. And they're in your way like you wouldn't believe. But the secret that nobody tells you is that native New Yorkers send tourists to Times Square and the Village, so they do that looking up, walking slow thing. When it's just our way of getting you the hell out of the way. That's the big attraction for Times Square. Although I will say this though, if you've never been to Times Square at night, go at least once in your life. There's really nothing else like it on earth. It's pretty incredible. But it always amazed me when I was walking through these slow these slow walking folks, or fighting my way through these slow walking folks who were looking up in Times Square that they would choose to come to New York City, a city with some of the greatest restaurants on the face of the planet, and they go to like the Times Square Hooters, they go to the Times Square Denny's, they go to the Times Square's TGI Fridays, they go to the Times Square's Guy Fieri restaurant. And so I don't think anybody was expecting it to be good, but that guy's a celebrity chef, and I heard the food was like just legendarily awful, like flavorless, oversalted, frozen crap. So yeah, not a big loss.
You're waiting to get washed away. Radio. Radio. 104.1.
Now, more AD on the radio.
Back once again, the ill behavior, delivering and giving you my musical savior. Back once again, it's your boy AD, and can't nobody rock a body better than me. Back once again, the ill behavior, delivering and giving you a musical savior. Back once again, it's your boy AD, and can't nobody rock a body better than me.
So a little later on in the show, we're going to talk about this woman who got fired from her job for complaining about a coworker. Her complaint was that her coworker I almost said co-anchor, but I didn't.
But I didn't.
Yeah.
Oh.
Co-anchor.
Co-anchor.
The complaint she lodged against her coworker was that her coworker stank to high heaven. And she got fired for that. I was just thinking, sorry, I'm all distracted because it's interesting because I hear people use that word around America all the time, but it's unquestionably a dirty word in England. Like, you couldn't use that, but there was actually a band that got played on the radio, I remember back in the day, called Wank, and you just couldn't have that in England, but you can in America. So there you go. Yeah, we'll talk a little later on in the show about why a woman was fired for complaining that her coworker stank to high heaven. Right now, though, Travis Golightly, let's continue with what remains of the news.
Mel Gibson turns 62 today.
Mel Gibson is 62. I got him a Fitbit so he can count his goose steps. It was interesting because Mel Gibson was made famous by the movies that he was in, like Mad Max, and what was the buddy cop flick that he was in?
Oh, God.
With Danny Glover?
Yeah, Lethal Weapon.
Yeah. So he was made famous by his movies. He was made infamous by his rather pointed anti-Semitic rant against a police officer that stopped him for drunk driving. And when he did that, and when people found out about it, and then when he left us screaming and yelling... It wasn't a voicemail. His baby mama, who he left his wife for, recorded it, and it was him screaming at her. Like, it was just unconscionable the way he was talking to her. Like, he's just one human being, should not talk to another human being like that. And so Mel Gibson went from being like the toast of the town to like, oh God, no thank you, no thank you. And he was in that he was in that movie. It came out recently. It was a Christmas movie with Will Ferrell and Marky Mark of the Funky Bunch, Mark Wahlberg. What's that movie? Daddy's Home or something like that?
Oh, I think it is Daddy's Home. Yeah, I was hoping that you had some part of the name because I could not think of it.
Yeah, I think it was Daddy's Home too. And I remember being in the theater and watching the preview for that, and everyone's like, oh, this looks funny, this is going to be good. And we find out who the characters' dads are, and Will Ferrell's dad is John Lithgow from all sorts of things, up to and including 30 Rock, 30 what was the Third Rock from the Sun?
Rock from the Sun, yeah.
And so then who should come on screen playing Mark Wahlberg's dad but Mel Gibson? And the whole theater went, ugh. And it was just one of those things where it was like too soon. I think the movie wound up doing well, though. And I think Mel Gibson played like a sexist, racist, anti-Semitic jerk pig. So people didn't have a hard time believing him in that role. But I know I was all excited to go see it because the first one was pretty freaking hilarious. And then when I found out Mel Gibson was in it, I was like, thanks, but no thank you. Go on.
Lindsay Lohan was bitten on the leg by a snake.
She has all kinds of accidents. It's crazy. She lost the tip of her finger. It had to be sewed back on a little while ago. What, she was bitten on the leg by a snake?
Yeah.
Wow.
It doesn't say what kind of snake.
Oh, well, there's a quote here. Fortunately, ER doctors determined that I'm free of any infection, responded the snake. So good for him.
Very nice. Carrie Underwood said that she needed over 40 stitches after a fall outside of her home.
It's the biggest fall for an American Idol winner since Taylor Hicks fell off the face of the earth. Actually, I was thinking about this because Kelly Clarkson was on one of the New Year's Eve shows, and Kelly Clarkson is a legitimate superstar. And she came from American Idol. And I'm hard-pressed to think of anybody else that came from American Idol. Like, I'm sure there's some people somewhere, but I was like, man, which American Idol winner was Kelly Clarkson? And they said it on the show when she was performing, and they were like, yep, she was the first winner of American Idol. And I was like, wow, the first one took off, and that was it. Like, nobody really has heard from the vast majority of the American Idol winners ever since. I don't think. Was Jennifer Hudson on American Idol? Because she's kind of a big freaking deal.
I'm not sure. But I've always heard the same thing about American Idol, that it doesn't make stars. So, I mean, it's interesting.
That other show,
anyone else either.
If you had a gun to my head and said you have to watch one of these bogus reality TV show singing competition things, I would probably choose The Voice. Like, that one I find to be perhaps the least offensive, but if you talk to the people that created The Voice and like the judges on The Voice, like all the sort of stars that are the, you know, the coaches, or I don't know how it works. I've never watched a full episode. I've just seen little bits and pieces here and there. And, you know, like I said, it seems to be the least offensive out of all of these things. However, they're very aware of the fact that they've never had a Kelly Clarkson. So American Idol had Kelly Clarkson, and that's more or less it. And then The Voice had no one and nothing. Like, these shows make for good TV, but they don't exactly launch careers. It seems like a one-way ticket to, I don't know, being the mopper-upper at the Triple Treat Theater when your record fails and everything tanks. So who was that guy? What was his name? Philip Phillips. You remember him?
I don't remember him. Was he on The Voice?
He was, I think, an American Idol guy, and Philip Phillips had a huge hit, and it was called Home, and it sounded exactly like Mumford & Sons. I was like, oh, this is the new Mumford & Sons, it's good. And people were like, no, that's Philip Phillips. This is a few years back. But
no, it's funny that you say that, because I can hear the song in my head, and I always thought it was Mumford & Sons.
Yeah. I'm gonna make this place my home. Yeah, that song.
Philip Phillips. He's the guy who does that Mumford and Sons song.
yeah, I know. There you go. What else?
Coachella 2018 lineup was announced yesterday.
Or as Nickelback called it, Tuesday. Have you ever been to one of those real... I mean, you and I have worked together at many Buzz Fests, and that's like 20,000 people and 15 bands. That's a big show. That's like a really big show. So we've been around that. Have you ever been to one of those really, really big festivals like Coachella? Or do you have any interest?
No, I have no interest. It's just... I mean... I love stuff like BuzzFest, but that's the most I can handle. I mean, even that's pushing it. You know, I think I have ADD and probably a lot of other things. So like, it's hard for me to sit through a movie, much less like an entire day of music and stuff like Coachella or Burning Man, which is not really it's more of a festival than a concert. But no, I can't do that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, I couldn't. I played a bunch of that stuff when I was in a band. I mean, we did Warped Tour, but then and Warped Tour is its own thing. That's kind of a grimy Dust Bowl situation, and so that's very low rent in punk rock. But we played like big festivals in England, and I remember playing them and having a great time and walking around and thinking it was fantastic, and then going, okay, it's time to leave and go back to the hotel. And then seeing lots of other guys and girls from other bands like pitch a tent and be like, no, man, we're staying for all 5 days. This is the greatest thing ever. I'm like, no, oh, God. No. You know what I enjoy? You know what I enjoy? You know what I feel like I work really hard for? Indoor plumbing.
Yeah.
Leave the stimulation to the professionals.
Everyone is so smart.
KPRC, more stimulating talk radio.
There's something happening here, and you should know what it is. The Dumbing Up of America. Now, more AD on the radio.
So you and I will discuss a very difficult human resources situation a little later on in the show when we talk about a woman who is fired for complaining about her coworker and complaining about the fact that her coworker stank to high heaven, complained about her BO, and wound up out of a job. Was this fair? Was this the right thing to do? We'll go over the whys and wherefores of the story a little later on, and you can decide for yourself. Right now, though, Travis Golightly, let's finish what remains of the news.
83-year-old Utah Senator Orrin Hatch has announced that he will be retiring at the end of this term.
You lived in Utah for a little while. How do you feel about this? Do you have a personal connection with the Hatch?
I don't like the Hatch. Just my own personal feeling. A lot of friends of mine who still live in Utah do not like the Hatch.
What was the problem with the Hatch?
Honestly, I think I'm trying to remember what the main complaint was. I think he's just out of touch. I think he's quite out of touch with reality.
Well, he is 83 years old. I mean, I think his retirement plans include spending more time at home with his wife, kids, grandkids, great-grandkids, and the Grim Reaper. So, I mean, it would make sense that he was a little out of touch with what the youth of today or the younger generation felt was important. But
you know, I don't want to turn it political, and I know there's arguments for both sides, but personally, I am not a fan of the concept of making a career out of being a representative of the people. So I'm a big fan of the concept of term limits, and I would love to see that. I mean, he's been in Congress he's been in the Senate for what, like 40 years, half of his life.
Yeah, he had quite a run.
I think he's the oldest per term. I think he's the senator who has been in the Senate for the longest. So. Good for him, and I'm sure he's done a lot of good, but bye.
Yeah.
I think it's time to go.
Do you hear who they're talking about replacing him?
Oh, God. Should I be scared?
Former presidential hopeful that once used a Foo Fighters song without Dave Grohl's permission for his presidential campaign and got called out for it, Mittens Romney.
I hate Mittens. Oh, my gosh. You know what? Maybe Hatch should stay. I'm not a Mitt Romney fan. I'm really not.
Yeah, Mitt Romney is a likely candidate to fill Hatch's seat. And relax, Mike Pence. That's fill his Senate seat. All right, go on.
Kim Jong-un says that the entire United States is within range of his nukes.
Yeah, before anyone gets nervous, know that nukes is a Korean word for man boobs. So there's that. How worried, on a sliding scale of 1 to 10, Travis Golightly, how worried, and you know what? You live by the water. You live in an area that is potentially more susceptible to this sort of thing, but how worried on a scale of 1 to 10 are you about Korean nukes?
0. And I say that, let me be clear, I was actually, and I'm still kind of considering it, I was actually looking at moving to Guam recently. And Guam, as we all know, is definitely within striking range, and I'm still not concerned about it.
Right. Interesting. I mean, the guy's straight up crazy. Like, he's bat S. He is bat guano bananas is what that man is. So it's one of those things where I never want to discount the danger that emanates from someone as unpredictably insane as Little Kim is. Like that, and that is the reason why I'm a little higher on the sliding scale of worry. I'm not necessarily worried about the nukes, but I'm worried about something. I'm worried that this situation isn't being treated with the amount of gravity that it should be. And when I met Dennis Rodman this past summer, just gone by, that's exactly what I said to him.
I completely agree with you in the sense that I think it's a serious situation, and I do think something's going to come of it, and I do think it's going to be something serious. But am I worried about a nuke, one of their nukes hitting us? Not necessarily. I do think that North Korea's reign as a country might be coming to an end anytime soon. I told somebody else the other day, I said, Guam, I hear Guam is about to have a special on North Korean barbecue. Because, I mean, I really do think...
My God.
I know, and that's terrible. And I don't mean it like in a, humanitarian sense. I don't mean to make a joke of it. But I do mean that, I think that they're playing with fire, and that at some point, the threats are going to end and it's going to be taken seriously. And I do think it's being
I
taken
think
seriously.
South Korea has a very open sort of like bounty on his head. They're like, we want to assassinate him. We think he's troubling. We have plans to kill him. And, they're extraordinarily open about it. And
I think you'd be hard pressed to find someone who doesn't agree.
well, I mean, that's the thing. There's like the fact that the guy is still, that's part of what worries me, that the guy is still alive, that, like the entirety of the world has basically agreed that he's a deranged lunatic that needs to go, yet he's still there. And I don't know if that's more because they're worried about creating a power vacuum and what could come after him if he's assassinated or removed or overthrown or what have you. But the fact that he's still there is the thing that makes me think he's more dangerous than a lot of people give him credit for being.
I always like to view like complex situations as like super simple like remedies. I told somebody else, I said, you know what, just go in and just knock out North Korea and go over to South Korea and be like, congratulations, it's just Korea now, it's now yours. Or tell China, be like, you know what, here you go, you can have it. And I get it, it's a lot more complex than that. And the whole concept of striking them is a lot more complex than that. But I always like to just have like oversimplified remedies to fix things.
But I mean, we're not even talking about the idea of sort of like a military overthrow. We're talking about him being assassinated. Like, there's many people that said we've got a plan to assassinate Kim Jong-un, and no one's been able to pull it off yet. As much as people have talked about it, he's still around. And like, that's, I think what I said, the fact that he's still there is what makes me feel like he's got something. He's got something that we don't know about. There's something going on that makes him more dangerous than we perceive him to be, and otherwise he would have been taken out at this stage in the game. Anyways, I guess we'll have to watch this space. What else?
Mercedes that was used by Adolf Hitler during World War II will go up for auction later this month in Arizona.
No kidding.
Yeah.
What the? Huh. I'm just trying to think, A, how much something like that would fetch, B, who would want that sort of thing, and why? I
don't know.
No. Yeah, I think it's a 1939 model Mercedes. I mean, I guess it is owning a piece of history. Like, it is owning I don't know, 1939 model. Probably still has that new Reich smell to it, though. That's weird. That's strange. I always wonder about that sort of thing.
Yeah, it'll be interesting.
If you buy Hitler's Mercedes, do you do it secretly? Like, what happens?
I think you would have to. I mean, there's so many people out there, and don't get me wrong, with reason, that are not okay with it just being a piece of history. So, I mean, if it's not taken, if it's not put under guarded protection, it's not going to last long.
I mean, that's a very, very strange situation, because like I would imagine whoever does it will probably have to explain, because there's all sorts of people that collect Nazi paraphernalia. There's all sorts of people that collect World War II antiquities and things of that nature from every sort of facet of the war. And that's one thing. But when you want a personal possession of Adolf Hitler's, and it's not just to take it out of circulation, and there's not some sort of involved with it. Yeah, that's I'll be very curious to find out who winds up buying that and why, because I can't imagine a good reason for wanting to plunk down hard-earned cash on that thing, unless maybe it was like a fantastic investment, like a Hitler Mercedes flip. Like, I know I can buy it in 2017 or 2018, and it's going to be worth twice as much in the next 10 years. It might be an investment. I don't know, but I mean, then you're sort of like, you're choosing the almighty dollar over humanity, and that still doesn't make it any more understandable or justifiable. What else?
A couple in Texas was arrested after a woman performed a sex act on her boyfriend in a booth at a Tex-Mex restaurant. Do
you see that thing that said Houston as a city parties harder than anybody, than any other country, any other city in America? Houston parties harder than any other city in America. Did this happen in Houston? Because that would be right in line with that.
I don't know where it happened. I don't think it happened in Houston. I
can imagine something like that happening in Houston. There's like...
I know.
It was a family-friendly restaurant. Where was it?
It was North Austin.
It was Austin?
It was Austin.
Okay. Keep Austin weird. I guess I'm keeping Austin weird. Maybe it was just sort of like maybe it was a language problem. Maybe maybe if she was treating him to that kind of favor, which I think she was treating him, perhaps there was some sort of confusion about the usage of a euphemism for gratuity. And, well, you connect the rest of the dots.
They look like English speakers.
What's another word for gratuity?
Tip.
There it is. All right.
I feel like I got tricked into answering that. To be clear, because it didn't dawn on me what I was answering.
We should move briskly along to the next story, Travis.
Video has surfaced of a massive brawl inside of an Ohio Waffle House.
So let's just agree at this point. It's only considered news if someone goes into a Waffle House and a massive brawl doesn't break out. If you just go to YouTube and punch in Waffle House fight, there's
you have
so
your selection.
Many.
You can pretty much.
Oh my gosh, they're the most crazy, violent fistfights you have ever seen. Like, Kid Rock has been involved in like 3 of them.
Are you serious?
Kid Rock has been involved in. I think it's definitely one. It might be multiple fisticuff style altercations at Waffle Houses. And you know what? Here's the thing. I actually really enjoy Waffle House. I especially like their hash browns. And you know what? Like, when I used to go out to Clear Lake every single Sunday night, I would pass Waffle House and I would pass IHOP. And I knew I would be coming out of the club, out of the Scout Bar, where I did that weekly gig every single Sunday. And I was like, I really want to go to Waffle House, but there's probably going to be a fight or a shooting there. So I'm going to go to IHOP instead. I want a waffle, but I'm going to settle for a pancake just because there was always something going on at Waffle House. It's inexplicable because I got to tell you, delicious toasted pastries tend to make me unbelievably happy. I've never eaten a waffle and gone, now I want to punch someone. Like, it's not really a thing for me. I would imagine that waffles would be a bringer of peace, not of altercation. All right. So let's talk about this unbelievably difficult human resources situation that a woman has found herself in. It's a really tough situation when you've got a coworker who smells horrible. Have you ever had a coworker that smelled horrible, Travis?
I have. I don't know that it was addressed. When I was an air traffic controller, I worked with a supervisor who had dealt with an issue of a guy who was not bathing. Yeah.
Yeah. You know what would be really awkward, though? If you're like, hey, could you start showering? And they're like, I shower 4 times a day. It's a glandular thing, you insensitive a-hole.
That would suck.
Yeah, it's just a tough situation to even think about approaching. But apparently, if you don't tackle it head on, it makes it worse. One woman tried to go the passive-aggressive route, and now she's out of a job and in court. A woman named Amber Bridges was working as a supervisor at a magistrate court in Indianapolis back in November of 2016 when some of her employees started complaining to her about one coworker's, quote, chronic body odor. So she bought a bunch of air fresheners and installed them all over the office. Unfortunately, about 6 months later, the employee with the body odor complained to Human Resources that the air fresheners had created a hostile work environment, and this woman was fired. And now she's suing the city of Indianapolis for wrongful termination. She's arguing that the employee's body odor is a disability, and since she was working to accommodate it under the Americans with Disabilities Act, she shouldn't have lost her job. That's a tough one. It's really difficult to figure out if there's any kind of malicious intent with that one. Do you think she was being a meanie, or do you think she was trying to take the delicate, sensitive route?
That's tough. God, I don't know. I think she was probably trying to take the sensitive route, but it's still, just like you said, if they actually have a body odor problem and they are showering, what are you supposed to do? I don't know.
Yeah, neither do I. Thank goodness you and I both smell great all the time.